Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagenow, and we are back here in the Hendrickson Library at the Institute for the Preservation of Western Civilization. I'm joined here today by Sarah Curry, who doesn't like the lengthy introduction, but yet here we are, and you had to sit through it again. So,
yep, I'm here.
And you don't like it. You still don't like it, do you?
I mean, it's okay.
It's okay. Great. Well, welcome back. We haven't had you in studio in a while.
I know, it's been a while. I waited till it snowed to drive in.
Yeah. No, I didn't think you were going to make it, but I should have never questioned your commitment, not only to the ITR Live podcast, but to the broader goals of lower taxes and freedom in the state of Iowa. So
this might surprise you, but I get really excited talking about all this stuff, and my husband's like, please go talk to somebody else. I don't care anymore.
Okay, I get it. I get it now. So you are here because
it's like therapy
your
for
husband
me.
Said, please go talk to somebody about this stuff because I don't want to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like we were making the one pagers. Like, what do you think about that? He's like, honey, I'm a nurse. I really don't care.
Yeah.
That's not fair. He does care.
No, he does. He
Just
does.
not as much as I do.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Okay, well, we've got a couple of things to talk about today. And first off, because I have started to get questions from the folks I talk to, we have, over the last year, talked a lot about the public budget hearings and the notices went out and they need to be fixed. But I think before I go straight into that, I'd like to kind of reset, I don't know, maybe the ITR Local in broadly, but what we're trying to do, and then we'll kind of pivot into the upcoming hearings. So I guess what I'm doing is a way for you, like, what is ITR Local?
Yeah, so ITR Local, it's our local government initiative to really just let people know what's going on in their community. If you talk to your neighbors, they might be like, I don't know what my city spends or my county spends. And it's intimidating to go talk before elected officials on something that you don't really know a lot about. So ITR Local is really here just to empower people and give them information so that way they can have the confidence to share their personal story and how their government's working for them. And so we have the website. We have all 99 counties, all cities with a population over 1,000, and all 327 school districts. And it's very basic, general information, but it just gives you enough to say, hey, I think that's too high, or I think you're doing a really good job. Keep it up. My taxes are lower than the neighboring communities. Thank you. So it's just giving information because not everybody understands government finance, and they shouldn't have to, but everyone has government in their lives, and they should tell the people that are governing them how they feel like they're doing.
And ultimately, you equip people with that information and trying to get them involved in that conversation and get them, look, very few individuals are going to understand as much about local government finance as the local government officials do, but that doesn't mean that you can't have a basic understanding and go have a conversation with them. And so we're trying to get people into the process.
Right, exactly.
And so that then kind of brings me around to where I wanted to go with the question is, right now we are in the time of year when these budgets are being built at the local government level. It's not maybe in the summer when you get that assessment notice and you get the sticker shock or the bill. Right now, they're deciding how much of your money to spend.
Right, exactly.
And so last year there were notices that said the time and the place of these public hearings and at least a half of an attempt to try and tell you how much your bill was going to go up. But when should people expect that entry point into this process is coming up soon, right? What should people be looking out for?
Yeah, so the hearings will start around the end of March, and the notices will go out. There's all this in statute spelled out, but I would say mid-March, expect to see them start hitting your mailboxes. Okay. And it's unique per jurisdiction. So just because your neighbor or your family member in another part of Iowa got theirs, yours might be a week or two different. But all the local governments have to have their budgets filed by the end of April. And so these budget hearings will be happening, I would say, late March, first week in April.
Okay.
And that's when you need to look out for it. And these budget notices that are going out, they are being sent to your mailbox because you should attend. You should share your feelings and you should tell people how you feel. Like with this latest snowstorm, I'm going to go tell them that secondary roads did not do a very good job. And they need to hear that, because
Yep.
if they don't hear it, they think they're doing a good job.
I can hear the cynics out there saying, oh, yeah, sure, now you want your local government services after you tell them that you don't want to pay your property taxes either. But I'm going to tell you why that's different. Because we want prioritization inside of these services. Like what's important and what's not.
Oh, 100%.
And the roads in front of your house are important. And I'm not even joking. They are. That's an essential function of government. You want it done. There are other things that get done at the local level that aren't essential functions. And maybe even if you're not taking your torch and your pitchfork to City Hall or the County Board of Supervisors, you're going in to let them know what you think the most essential things are and what the dollars should be spent on and what they shouldn't be spent on.
And I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but I see a lot of local elected officials, you go and you speak before them and they say, well, what tax rate do you think we should have? Or what do you think we should cut in our budget? And, I've had people reach out to me and say, I don't know what to say. I freeze on the spot. So I looked into that. And so ITR will be releasing a local government guide to help people speak to their local elected officials. And in there, we are going to have that spelled out. These are the essential purposes, essential functions of government. Here's the next level. Here's the next level. And then here at the top are the luxuries. These are the nice things that we don't really need. So anyway, I just want to let people know, don't let them put it back on you.
Where are aquatic centers on that hierarchy?
Oh, those are luxuries.
They are luxury items. Okay. Where are bike trails on there?
Yeah, that's that. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
It's actually kind of funny you say that, because when I was putting it together, the top of the pyramid, so we're kind of like mimicking Maslow's hierarchy. All of the bonds that have been happening recently, most of them are for the luxury items. And I was just like, wow, like what's been driving our property taxes? It's not police and fire and EMS and roads. It's anyway, so I just want to let our listeners know that will be coming out. We will have that resource available to you. And I think it's really cool.
So that I think there's a transition point there to the thing that you've been working on a lot lately that I want to dig into, which is franchise fees. And we're not talking about opening a new Subway or McDonald's on the corner. We're talking about utilities and extra taxes that are levied on your utility bill. Well, this is flared up now, right? It's like, we're going to reference back to an article that just came out today in the Des Moines Register. But before we dig into some of this stuff, because there's a couple pieces in there that really I'm struggling with. But I want you, like, what are franchise fees, and like what's going on in Iowa code, and why is this becoming relevant right now?
So just so our listeners know, this only impacts city residents. County residents are exempt because, we don't pay for city utilities. So this has been going on for decades, actually. Iowa law has allowed cities to charge utilities a fee. Now, that utility obviously passes that fee on to the consumer. So let's say your water bill, if there's a franchise fee on your water bill, you pay for water, and then based on whatever you're paying, you might pay a 1% up to 5% fee on that, and that goes back to the city. Historically, that was just for the city to manage the right-of-way. So let's say that the water utility had to dig up some of the sidewalk to access one of their things. The money from that franchise fee would have just paid to fix the sidewalk and fix the right-of-way. That's not the case anymore. Now,
Sort of a user fee.
Kind of a user fee thing. Yeah, it really wasn't a big deal. Like it's like I said, it's been around for decades in Iowa. No one really cared. It was fine. And then around 2009, the law changed and said that cities can now use this franchise fee for a host of things. And on top of the right-of-way, police, fire, sidewalks, infrastructure, economic development, a number of things. And so what we've seen recently are cities that have a spending problem, or they're scared that they're going to get reined in because they are spending too much. They're looking for other revenue sources other than property tax, and the franchise fee is just sitting there ripe for the taking. And so they're going to use it. And so that's what we've kind of seen, and that's why you might be a lifelong Iowa resident and saying, why is this an issue now? And that's why, because we're having a shift.
So if your community levies a franchise fee, you'll see that on your utility bill, right? or if that's where it's levied, for example, right?
Right. Yeah.
So here I'm a Mid-American customer. I would open the bill and you see those line items, it's supply charge and whatever fee. And then
I will say this is much more prevalent for Alliant customers than Mid-America. Not say Mid-America's exempting it, they're not, but Alliant seems to have the majority of them.
Right. So but it's a tax. It's a tax on your utility bill.
Well, so here's the interesting part. It's not a tax, it's a fee. And so we need to remember, these are the details, right? This is why you bring me on here, because I'm the nerd.
Okay.
So governments don't pay taxes. So your school does not pay taxes.
Oh, I'm going to get to that in a minute, Sarah.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway,
I'm getting warmed up for that one.
Well, I just want everyone to know this is a fee, so it's applied on everybody. So that means even if some entity like a nonprofit, a food bank, a school is exempt from paying taxes, they have to pay this fee.
Okay, but it is money that you have to pay to government. Right?
Yeah, I mean that's yes.
And
I mean
so,
it functions like a tax, but it is a fee because
So so a city can decide to levy this, and it appears to be your research has shown that there's a whole bunch of new franchise fees being proposed. A dramatic new move towards franchise fees, and it. What I've gathered is. I'm trying to find the diplomatic word for this. It's an alternative revenue source, which you hear over and over from local governments. They're like, we need other revenue sources. Well, okay, this is the new one that they're all going for, right?
There's not even really a diplomatic way to say it. If you go to some of these cities' websites and look at the information they're putting out on the franchise fee, they flat out say that exact same thing. We need another revenue source because the legislature might cut our property taxes.
So they're clearly
they're saying it themselves.
Yeah. And it's almost, it seems like, and you touched on this, like a preemptive fee increase. Like we think we're going to have less because of the legislature in the future. So we're going to bump these up now.
That's for the ones that are doing it now. There were a handful of ones that did it back 2016, 2017, and that's just because they needed to spend more money and they didn't want to cut. One city in particular I saw, they're like, we have a budget shortfall. Well, no, you have a spending problem. So they jacked up their franchise fee to 5% to fill the budget hole because they got more cash.
And so I want to hit on some of the things because I read this article. It's in the Des Moines Register, and it starts about the city of Johnston. And I honestly, I do not want to pick on the city of Johnston necessarily, but it does sort of highlight some of the things that we're talking about here. And I want to unpack some of these things, but just Johnston is proposing a 5%, which is the statutory maximum.
That is the maximum, yes.
So a lot of these you see at 1, but they want to go up to 5, which... that's straight on top of your utility bill. Mm-hmm. They want to hire 25.5 public safety positions over the next 5 fiscal years. So they're saying we're growing, and so we're going to have increased needs. Well, if they're growing, shouldn't the growth pay for the additional services? I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
That's very logical thinking of you, Chris.
So as they grow, there's going to be more tax revenue. Shouldn't the growth in the tax base pay for the additional services?
I mean, I would think if there's a cornfield that got turned into a Hy-Vee or a Menards or, a housing development, they're going to get a lot more property tax revenue from that. Why do they need to jack up the franchise fee? I mean, but they're not alone, right? This is a very well thought out script because when Fort Dodge proposed theirs last September, they said they had to hire fire or police officers with it. And they told the community, if you want a safe community, we have to do this. Well, the Fort Dodge residents thought otherwise and they voted against it. I do want to kind of qualify that, though. The Johnston situation right now, there's not an election on this. The city council will decide this on their own.
This isn't it.
Citizens must petition the city and collect signatures to push this to an election. This does not automatically go to an election of the people. And if the residents of Johnston do not organize, the city council on third reading, it will be implemented on them.
Right. And that's a very short window. And I know you've heard me go off on this, is that we have these oftentimes an opportunity for citizens to petition for elections on these things, but they're given, or even if it's just notice that there's a bond election, for example, they have a very short window of time to either call for the election or to get organized in a campaign mode. And I'd sure like to see something change on that. So I want to keep going through some of this because our friend Jim DeCroix is quoted in this article. And I think this is a great line. DeCroix wrote, this is kind of in an email. He's sympathetic to lawmakers intervening on property taxes. Quote, too often taxpayers are treated as an unlimited line of credit. Yes, that is the point. So there's another individual that wrote an email to the city, and somehow the register's got these emails, but whatever. Said he's not against, and I don't mean to be too critical here because I appreciate this person genuinely communicating with the city council, but he's not against franchise fees in principle, but the proposed increase to 5% goes beyond the rate of inflation, which picked up for a fourth straight month. Again, it goes to the point that over time, the utility rates are growing up. It's growing anyway underneath. We're talking about fees and taxes on top of the growth.
Right. Yeah.
And I can understand, what he's saying here, but there should be year over year additional money coming in on the 1% that they've already got. Right?
Yeah. So, if your local community has passed a local option sales tax, you are already paying a 1% sales tax on utilities. So this is mainly gas and electric. What these cities are doing is they're flipping the local option sales tax into a franchise fee. And the reason why they do that is because if you have nonprofits or schools or government offices those are right now exempt from the local option sales tax, once they flip it to a fee, they get a little bit more money.
Yep.
So that switch, but that usually doesn't come with it doesn't come with an increase to residential customers. And so that change by city council is not controversial, let's say, because businesses are already paying it and residents are already paying it. It's just the government entities. Now, when typically what a community does is they take that 1% and they go to a 3% franchise fee. Now, not only is that burden adding to our county and our schools and our nonprofits, but also to our businesses and our residents. And so usually they go 1, 3, 5. To go from 1 to 5 is a big jump.
Big jump.
Burlington's having a referendum on this March 4th. The taxpayers down there organized and pushed it to a referendum. And they're going from 1 to 3. I believe Fort Dodge was just trying to go 1 to 4. So 1 to 5, that's pretty ballsy for Johnston to just come out the gate with that.
Well, let me go into, I agree. It's a big jump. I want to go into a few things because they're a couple of these things are very common of what we hear. One, here's, it comes right out in this document talking about the need to grow staff over 5 years. If they don't get this is that otherwise it is reasonable to expect a decline in the quality of public services. So here's the straight up threat that if we don't pass this giant fee increase, our public services are not just going to stay same, they're going to decline. And it's every single time we talk about a property tax reform or something with local government spending, immediately we get the threat.
So I want to quantify services, and I won't name this city. If you look hard enough, it's not hard to find. The services that this city is threatening to cut if they don't get their franchise fee. The money to the library, not cutting the library, just less money to the library. The symphony, the orchestra, the arts council, and the outdoor swimming pool. And then I called the city manager because I just humbly want to learn more about this stuff and how it's working. And he told me, he said, we just had a budget meeting and I had a nonprofit come to me and say, why'd you cut the money that you were giving me? And he goes, well, if you can get the franchise fee passed, I'll give you your money back. So, yes, in a vacuum, right? Yes, they're cutting if they don't get it. But at the same time, again, are they cutting core essential services or are they cutting luxuries?
At least they're cutting the luxuries. I'm guessing on your diagram that we talked about earlier, the symphony and the library. And look, I'm not anti-fine arts. John and I talked about this. I'm not anti-library. Kind of enjoy the library. But those are the things that should be talked about, not going straight to police and fire protection, the most essential functions of your local government.
And
that's what bothers me. And here's the other thing. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, I mean, you know this. So police and fire is an essential service mandated by state statute for cities. They can't. Now, I guess they could technically cut it, but they really can't do that. It's just a scare tactic. Like, the state of Iowa has ensured that everybody in the state of Iowa has fire and police protection.
Okay, I agree.
So, I mean, they need to get real here. They're going to cut the hours, their outdoor swimming pool. They might not have murals on the side of City Hall. I'm not familiar with the intricate details of Johnston, but it's a scare tactic. It's not real.
Yes, but just to always immediately tie it to police and fire okay, let me try this back again too. So the argument is that growth is driving the need to add these positions. I accept that premise, that as your community grows, you will need to put more officers on patrol. You will probably need to staff up your fire department. I absolutely accept that premise. If that growth means that the current residents have to pay even more, what in the world is the point of the growth? If I live in one of these growing suburban communities, why do I want my community to grow if it ends up costing me even more at the end of the day?
I don't know if you're able to do this. Can you pull up ITR Local? See, folks, this is how you use our resources right now. Chris is going to pull up ITR Local on the website.
Oh, I had it open just a minute.
And he's going to look at Johnston.
I had it. I was looking at this earlier, and I'm really not trying to pick up on Johnston. There's many things they do very well. They're the ones that are in this article.
But I want to just show the example to people, right? You live in the city of Johnston. You're hearing this podcast. You're curious. You want to know. You go to ITR Local.
And they're actually below the line. So,
well, here, scroll down. So, in the last 10 years, Johnston has raised property taxes. What's the percent? Go up. 48%.
Yeah.
Property taxes have increased. But then scroll down. So, see,
but again, it's a fast-growing community.
Look at the jump.
Yeah.
From 24 to 25.
It's a big jump from 24 to 25.
They had a huge jump in property tax revenue. And now you're telling me they need more fee revenue, too, on top of it?
So
I don't know. See, that's what I look at. Again, you're a resident of Johnston. I encourage you to go to ITR Local. If you're a resident in Burlington, having to vote on this on March 4th, I encourage you to go to ITR Local and just inform yourself of what your community is doing.
Okay. I've said my piece. So anything else you'd like to talk about today? Would you like to recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
No, but my 5-year-old is visiting the office today, and he did, and
it was
so
wonderful.
Cute.
He
was so cute.
just knocked it out of the park. He gets it. It's pretty clear that mom and dad are steering him in the right direction. So it's been good.
Well, I made sure when the election happened in November, I was like, well, you can't just vote for someone because you like them. You have to have a reason. And so they're like, what's your reason? It's like, well, I vote for people that like lower taxes. So now my 7-year-old went to school and told everybody they have to vote for lower taxes.
That's fantastic.
Which I think was great.
You know what? And that's my middle schooler who wasn't quite that refined and policy driven. And maybe that's a difference between the Curry home and the Hagenow home. Mine just wanted to go to school and start a Trump gang.
Yeah.
Like yours is over here like trying to argue policy, and mine's just out here swinging for the fences on raw politics. And
well, it kind of goes like to the franchise fee, right? Your immediate reaction is just like anger and like that's wrong. And then I'm thinking, okay, how do we fix this? How does it work? What's going on? That's why it takes both sides of the brain here, folks, to get it done.
So anyway.
No, I would just like to let people know that I am working on our March special elections.
Yeah.
Probably one of our podcasts in the near future. We'll be talking about the details of that. I have to email all 99 auditors to find out where those elections are, and I'm still waiting on a handful to respond to me. So I don't have it yet because they like to keep me busy, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy to find all this stuff out, but that's why we are here for the ITR member.
And again, I think just about every time you're here, I remind folks, please reach out to us. If there's something out there that you think Sarah needs to be working on. Now, she's only got so much capacity, and so there are always things that come up that we just kind of have to take a pass on. But please reach out to us if you think like, hey, I noticed this thing in my community. You want to take a look at it. We love getting those ideas and that feedback.
Actually, the whole franchise fee, I hadn't really done a deep dive into it. And then we had some members in the Burlington area and then some members in Johnston reach out to us and say, hey, what is this? What does this mean? Can you help me figure it out? And now I'm going to have an article coming out on that soon. And I've really learned a lot about the franchise fee. So that's how we stay relevant because we're listening to our members. Yep.
Well, very good. Well, thanks for joining us. Hopefully it's more often than it has been lately, because I can tell you, I genuinely just today already had an ITR member say, I really like it when Sarah's on the podcast. That ITR member happened to be my dad, but whatever. But still, nonetheless, no, you are appreciated by the listeners, and they like hearing from you. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, listeners. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to pass this along and tell your friends and neighbors. And with all of that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.